Morning, I'm Greg Summers and this is the Crafty Summer Show. Today's show is going to be a little bit different. We've had some comments from people about things they've seen in the background of our shows and have made some comments about them, so I'd like to show you some of them, and that is the metal fish that they see hanging around. And these are some of the things I do that I sell at art fairs and online. And I'd like to show them to you and explain something about them. The first fish that we're going to look at is probably way up here at the top, and this is my big sturgeon, and it's made out of steel that I've polished, and then to get these darker spots or highlights I've heat treated it with the torch to kind of burn it to get some colors to come through. It's kind of a tricky thing to do because once it gets hot enough, you got to be able to stop heating it to get the color to come out. Sometimes it gets a little bit too big, so you have to sand it all off, polish it up again, and start over. A lot of the materials that I get are recycled, and I use copper and I use steel, and some of the metals come from different factories around our area. One of those metals is this one right here, and this is what I call a skeleton fish. This section of metal here is discarded from a factory as scrap, and then I buy it and recycle it, and they've punched out these designs in here, and the designs make up a good part of the fish, so I take those and I cut the metal down and bend it and then re-weld it. The head and the fins and the tails then I make out of different sheet metal and then put everything together. This fish down here, a little bluegill, is a steel one, and it's been heat treated, and it has a clear plastic coating on it, and it's the same type of finish that you see on wire shelving. Usually it's white, but this happens to be a clear finish, and I put that on a couple of them. I put that on this pike up here, and this is the same material. It is steel and it's been heat treated. I try to give it some type of design that would be similar to what a fish would look like. And then I have a large one back here, and this one is a large bass, and it's been heat treated, and the metal has a texture in it, and actually the metal comes from a company south of here that makes microwave cabinets, and I buy it at a recycling yard, and it has a really nice texture in it that works real well with the fish. So that's another type of metal that I use. And then we're going to go downstairs and look at some other ones, and some will be copper then, and the rest of them will be steel. I have a couple of mobiles here I'd like to show you. These are ones that I basically cut the metal out and then painted it, which I don't do too much painting, but do a little bit. And this is one of my favorite mobiles. I've done a couple others, and this one here is basically just fish, and it's hooked onto a fishing rod, which would hang from a ceiling. This one moves very easily in any type of breeze. That's the part I like about it. And this one over here is a mobile that I made from fishing lures. So I got some different ones, and of course the fishing lures were from yard sales. You pick them up, and it's kind of fun to do those. The hard part is to get everything to balance. And once you get that done, it turns out pretty well. Okay, moving over here now, if I can get through the school of fish. I've got a couple, I call them screw fish, and these are ones that are made from nuts and bolts and screws that I'd weld together. The thing about doing these is they get very heavy, and it takes a lot of time to weld these together individually into a group. I lay them out in patterns and then start from there, start welding them. This here beetle is a little, just, you know, after you do so many fish, you got to do something different. So I tried to do something like that. Made it from sheet copper and copper tubing. Up here I have a display of different types of fish, and what I've tried to do is I used different types of steel and then also copper, and I treated the copper in different ways, and I'll try to explain that a little bit. Up here is a trout, and it's been heated, and that's where you get the color out of. And this is a pike, and I've got another trout here, and this is kind of a shiny copper. Trout down here is steel, a little bit different size. This grouping right here is basically panfish or bluegill, things like that. These four are all copper, but they've been treated a little bit differently. Some of it has a nice patina on it. Some of it's been treated with a color, and some of it is just natural. And then down here are my bluegills made out of different type of materials and then treated differently. Here's one that hasn't had anything done to it, and this one here is made basically from an old trailer roof, galvanized. It's pretty thin, so it works pretty well. Up here again I have a couple walleye, one made out of new copper, which is heat treated to get the colors to come out of it, and this one down here is a treated steel. This one here is an old copper with a little bit of a green patina in it. And these are larger fish, and I work down here with smaller ones in to get some different sizes. It depends on the material I have. And you know, it's kind of hard to do the same thing over and over, so I try to work with different ones. When I start doing this, I come up with an idea, and I do lots of little drawings and sketches, and then after that I develop a pattern. And then once you start with a pattern, you come up with a little different details in each one. No two are ever the same. They may be the same shape, but the details are all different. It's like these two up here were made from the same pattern, but one's left, one's right, and the fins are a little bit different. The opening of the mouths are different, so try to make them a little bit different. Down here in this grouping of three here, okay, you get bored making bluegill, and so then I try to come up with some different ideas of a little bit stranger creatures, and these have started to become pretty popular, so I'm kind of glad I did those. And I have no name for them. A couple customers called them piranha fish, so that's what I call them. And these over here are a little bit more whimsical, and they look really nice in groupings. They're my happy fish. And so we go from that. And over here, these three here are more skeleton fish. This one here was one large piece punched out. These here are made from individual pieces that are welded together in a pattern. And then sometimes they're polished. This one was just welded, and I left the burn marks in. This one down here is the same material, but I polished the burn marks out. And then this one here is heat treated a little bit to get some color in it, and this one down here wasn't. So I try to go with fish that people are familiar with: bass, pike, walleye, perch, things like that. This one here was just a piece of steel, like, oh shoot, I lost one. Well, like this one here or this one here, but I just simply left it outside for a while and let it rust. And then once it rusts, I get a nice color to it, and then I put a clear finish on it. And it can be a gloss or semi-gloss, depends on what you want, but it gives a little bit more color. Up here, again, something a little bit different. Thought I'd do a giant pig and see how it works. It's trying to get the relief patterns to come out to make it look realistic is pretty difficult. So you work from there. This here is one of my latest designs. I try to come up with different ideas, but I take the name and then I try to incorporate it into the fish then and do it that way. My idea was to, if you own a cottage or a lake home and you want to put your name on the cottage or lake home or the mailbox, then you can do it with a fish design. I started cutting these letters out individually and weld them back together, and then I've kind of evolved into where I'm doing it without cutting, and all the letters are embossed into the fish. That makes it hold together a little bit better. So kind of working that way. Okay, we're going to take a break for a second, and then we'll be back. See you a little bit. Okay, now the next segment that I want to show you is I started to do some flowers, and these are designed basically, you can put them inside or outside, but if you put them outside they'll tend to rust, and sometimes that's a good thing. It gives them a really nice color and they look pretty well. But these can be stood up on the ground, putting pins in the ground. You simply slide them over the pins, or they can be hung up. And these are the different types of flowers. It's my sunflower, irises, and just different types and different sizes that I've tried to come up with to kind of give people a selection as to what they want. This one over here is one that's been outside for a while and it's rusted. You can do a couple things. You can leave it go and it'll last for years and years and years. It's not going to rust away real quick. Or after you've got a good rust patina on it, then you can spray it with a clear varnish and then put it inside. And you have a good design that way then. So I try to do different flowers and different shapes and different sizes just to try to get a good combination or a good selection. And then moving over here, I've got some more fish. This particular one, I've put a clear varnish on it several times after leaving it outside for a little bit to get a little color on it. Again, here's another insect that I've done, and another fish over here. Here's one that actually has been rusted, and I sanded a little bit to get a little bit of highlights on it, and we're going from there. Here's one down here that's been made out of a barrel. I like a trash barrel, 55-gallon barrel that I cut and flatten out and work that way. Again, the fish or the other flower designs, you can get them about any size, any material, and of course you'd have to call for a quote. If you want to look at some of the things that I do have a website, and it's fishmongerart, all one word, .com, and that'll take you right to my website, and then you can go back in the pages and look at the different designs just to get an idea of what's available. And so you don't have to remember all this. You could tape the show and then have that too. But now we're out in the gazebo, and this is turned into my studio where I do display a lot of other art pieces. So I'll take you on a tour of this one. The first thing I'll show you is my fish bench, and this is my bluegill bench. It's about 3 feet, a 3-foot seat with a 4-foot bluegill in the back, and it's all hand carved and then finished with a tung oil to help preserve it. And also it's made out of the green treated lumber that you buy at the lumber yard. I do make these in a bass bench, which is about 5 or 6 foot long, and they're priced accordingly. We'll go up here on this wall here, and I have a few more skeleton fish. I got one large one up here at the top. And as we pan down, I've got some different ones here. This one is made from an old metal cooker, and then a regular little steel bass here, and I got a walleye here. And one of my bigger pieces, this one here, and this is a large bluegill it's kind of a patchwork design. It's made from scrap pieces, and they've all been welded together. It takes a lot of time to do these, but it's kind of fun to do. And over here, this is my samurai fish. It's kind of like made from individual pieces, kind of an armor-plated fish, so do that. And we'll move over here. Well, we can go up here to the top here. Another skeleton fish, and we have a gar right there, and that's made from copper. Working around, just a large fish made with the metal sheet. Over here is one of the, I think that's a perch. It's a sheet metal design, and it's painted. And then here is an old trout. It's about 4 foot long, and it's made from a piece of farm equipment. And back over here, another large bluegill made out of individual pieces that are welded together. And as we work around, we go up here, and there's another fish, and it's kind of a composite of wood and metal. And again, this is one that I just kind of had an idea, and I'm trying to work up some different designs with that. And we have another large fish up here, a little bit different heat pattern on it. And as we work around to the main wall, then down here at the bottom is a wooden pike. It has metal fins on it, and I've let these rust a little bit, and then I put a clear finish on those. Have a couple fish here mounted on pieces of wood, and then we have some more piranha fish. Here's one of the fish I made with a name in it, and again it's embossed, so it's all one piece. We move up high. Here's a large bluegill, and it has copper fins on it, and the copper is overlaid the actual wood of the project, and it's all been hand carved. And we work down here towards the bottom. Then I've got some more smaller designs. Here's a small gar made out of steel, a few more happy fish, and here's a pike made out of an old canoe frame. It's aluminum. So I try to use different materials to see what they work. Okay, remember my website is fishmongerart.com. If you need to get a hold of me, my phone number is 260-495-7391. If I'm not there, leave a message, name and phone number. And also, I will show my fish on appointment. So if you need to see them or have an interest in some of these, give me a call in 495-7391 or at my website, fishmongerart.com.